So continuing with the story of Uriel and caretaker neglect related or abuse related things that I've already mentioned, these are all covert abuse tactics that I mentioned in my previous video, or malicious intent related tactics people use when they want to hide something and don't want some truth of something to be revealed. And then along with that, there are also ancillary factors that are going on in that area itself where Uriel and her grandparents lived and her parents live, because that area itself has some environment specific conditions that were also likely responsible for the factors leading to her death that day. The reason why the temperature is needing to be re-examined is because if local temperatures weren't as high, or if she wasn't there in the car for longer than 2 hours, both these factors are important factors in understanding why she was still having a hot body. And also other factors are also responsible. There are other indicators that show why she should have a hot body. So one of the factors that I mentioned is if in case there were any pesticide related pest control going on in that area, pesticide usages can also increase your inflammation in your body, increase your basal body temperature slightly. So that could have been one reason why Uriel could have had this increase in her body temperature, and when the paramedics had touched her, they had said that she was really hot. So that could have happened, and it is definitely also possible that the feels like temperature as a result of pest usages and other chemical activities in that area. If there's too much chemicals in your local environment and everyone is now getting slowly toxed out as a result of chemical exposures from multiple sources, another reason that can also cause heightened inflammation in your body, that can also lead to the heightened inflammation eventually causing basal body temperature rises, all of which is also indirectly responsible for increasing the feels like temperature of an area. Even when the thermometer is showing a particular temperature, it's higher than that temperature for the feels like temperature conditions. So this thing is also something people need to wake up to, because if we want to resolve problems and collective problems and globally relevant problems, people need to develop an understanding about how these globally relevant problems are developing in someone's life. And these are the problems I'll discuss majorly in this video, but with some, it's a globally and locally relevant problem that was manifesting in this child's life, as well as family specific dynamics between family members. All of these were also responsible as well for certain conditions and elements related to her death. So with the grandmother, if she hadn't taken any heavy meals in the lunchtime, there's still a possibility of her getting sleepy and drugged by some other sources. Like how my mother, I told you, if you trust someone, if you are living in a house with someone, if you do not have malicious intent yourself, if you are a trusting soul, you will not imagine that anyone you trust, anyone you like as a friend or a family will be doing anything malicious towards you, right? You will assume that everyone you know is going to have the good faith and golden rule like attitude with you, where you do not do unto others that you do not want done to yourself, right? So most of us assume and live in that paradigm that we are not doing anything wrong, so other people are also not going to do anything wrong. We not only just assume it, this is supposed to be a basic paradigm of healthy living and thriving, that you do good to others and others will do good to you. But while that is the basic principle of life, does it mean that there aren't people who do not follow this basic principle? There are people who do not follow this principle, and because there are people who do not follow this basic principle is the reason why I'm making these videos, because understanding this is a crucial important thing when we give important roles to people in our lives, when critical crucial decision making has to be done about certain things in life, and the decision makers do not have a balanced perspective, do not have a overarching perspective, have a very self-directed or individualism specific perspective, those people can't be given greater responsibilities, or the kind of responsibilities that involve a lot of deeper decision making with any field of work. And in any field of work, that's why when complex things are going on, you need a little deeper scrutiny than what was going on. And that's why only people need to ask the question that if usually baby deaths happen when in the summertime, why is a baby's death and related to overheating happens in the summertime? If baby deaths are happening in winter time and overheating is present, is it always really just the being left in a car incident, or something else is going on? And the grandmother, why is it that two times when she was taking care of her grandchildren, she ended up becoming so drowsy? That drowsiness factor of hers, I believe she was drowsy this day as well. No one has mentioned it, even if she, because you can't have a lack of clarity. You can't simply, unless she either has Alzheimer's going on with her that has not yet been diagnosed, and if she doesn't have Alzheimer's, then she has some memory lapses going on with her, which can happen. Memory lapses can be caused by someone either hypnotizing you or someone drugging you and then hypnotizing you in combination, or all three could be going on with her, leading to her memory lapses. Because you just don't simply forget a child for 2 hours, especially not a school teacher who was monitoring like 20, 30, 40, 100, many multiple students at some point of time in her life. Even if she was not monitoring any students directly at many of her time points as a principal, she was still responsible for many people. So people were generally responsible for a huge group of people, and if they've never had neglectful patterns in the past, they don't suddenly one fine day become neglectful. If they are suddenly one fine day becoming neglectful, at that point of time that neglect has to have some deeper reasons. That's why only while as a child and as a teen, it's very easy to be manipulated by a parent to tell you that your mother is incompetent. But when, if my mother was really that incompetent, I would have had much more worser childhood and much more traumatized childhood when I was a younger child, which I didn't have. So that's why when someone that's why I had to question that narrative, that why is my mother always being blamed for being incompetent when she wasn't incompetent in many time points of our life, where she used to pack our lunches, take us to school. My dad used to have night shifts sometimes, so when he had night shifts, in the daytime he would be sleeping. So there's no daytime child rearing related activities that he was involved in when I was really young. And at those time points, when a toddler is there, when two toddlers are there in the home, my mom was very easily able to do child caretaking despite not having any help in the home life, whereas she had grown up in a family where she had a lot of help in her home life. So if someone was capable of taking care of two toddlers and taking care of their basic necessities of feeding, taking them to school on time, ensuring that they study at home. She used to also teach us while until 5th standard. She would also teach us what we are studying. So all these factors, if someone was able to do for many years, 8-10 years of a child's life, and then suddenly in the next 8-10 years they are not able to do it, there has to be some ancillary reason that is going on, which at that time when I was a teenager, I've been a little thoughtless teenager, I'm not going to focus too much about it. But does it mean that I didn't observe what was going on, right? So same way, people around this family also, they also can actually would have observed who is actually the mindful parent, who is actually not the mindful parent, who is the caretaking parent, who is not the caretaking parent, who is a parent who actually genuinely takes a lot of responsible burdens of the family, who's not taking the burdens, or who's doing just the bare minimum burdening of family caretaking related things, which everyone could have observed, from the smallest grandchild to anyone who is related to them, who has come and interacted with this family. So those things are also very necessary in understanding and determining the character of all the people involved in what happened to baby Uriel. And then, if let's say water was not given to her grandmother the day water bottle was not packed with her diaper bag, at that point of time, if a water bottle was not packed and there was indeed a plastic or paper straw used while baby Uriel was drinking water from maybe a small cup given to her in the restaurant, or like the grandmother, if it is a baby, she's a 7-month infant, so obviously a baby is not going to hold a glass like this and sip from a straw. Very few babies are going to have that. And if she didn't have a sippy cup given to her by her mother, and by 6-7 months I don't think babies use sippy cups. I've seen my nieces and other babies in my family use those sippy cup like straw, like which has a straw type feature. Those kind of cups are used by over 1 year old children, as in my family. But obviously I don't know the age range because I have not raised consciously any babies at that age range. So but I've hung around with smaller babies in my family occasionally. Anyways, so the main thing is, if a actual straw was used, because if someone has used the straw term and not the sippy cup term, what the grandmother could have done is she could have taken a straw and picked up a little, by capillary action. If she's a teacher, she knows capillary action, so by capillary action she could have taken some water from her glass and slowly drop by drop given some drops of water to the baby. That could have been something she could have done, right? So which is what someone might have observed about her while she was doing it. But if she's taking water from a adult cup and some water has been served to her, now Indian mothers are a little careful because we live in tropical countries. In tropical countries, tropical country people usually are taught that you should have boiled water along with you when you are taking water for a child, and that's why only people carry water when they are carrying a baby with them, and a boiled water source is usually used. And when we go to restaurants also, we are very careful about asking what kind of water you are serving us. Is it boiled water, is it bottled water? Whether the grandmother did it or didn't do it is something you need to observe, because many people in US, I know, we directly drink. I have hung around with friends in restaurants in US, and all of us, irrespective of, and those are people who have raised babies, but no one is really that careful in American countries or Western countries about the source of water they are drinking, or whether it's a filtered water or not. Well, in India, when we go to restaurants, sometimes in India, because the water pollution problem has escalated and led to food poisoning of people, and many foreigners also travel to India, or people like me who lived in foreign countries, when we come back to India we get stomach upset and things like that. And usually earlier the water pollution problem presumed was it is a bacterial contamination or some other microbial contamination. Most such people and restaurants, good restaurants in India, will ask you, or very nowadays it's very common in other restaurants also, that people ask you about serving you bottled water instead of tap water, because our tap water is not usually that hygienic or safe to drink. But because this is not a pattern in US, most of us, I have lived at least in 13 years of my life in US, many a times I have consumed direct tap water. I have never asked for mineral water or bottled water in restaurants, and most times I have only consumed tap water, because we don't we in US earlier, when lesser density of population was there, when it was a more cleaner country, these things you don't have to think about. But as the centuries have passed, as human activities have increased, as population density increases, slowly human led activities can lead to accumulation of now toxins in your local environment. The topics that I've discussed in my previous videos related to water pollution and other environmental toxin pollution. So this area, Vachaula area, has a hospital, and I checked that hospital's link also to see what kind of treatments they give to their patients. And it's a hospital that provides urgent care treatment, emergency care treatment, wound care treatment, surgical procedures, heart patients are treated, some lab tests are done. And in all of these main kind of things that they do, all of these also need either alcohol, like when you're doing lab and diagnostic test, you have to use rubbing alcohol for withdrawing blood from a patient, if you're doing wound care treatment also, some alcohol based treatment protocols might be needed. For surgery also it might be needed. For urgent care purposes also, certain medications might be given that are immediate urgent use medications. And who will access urgent care? If you have some mental health issue, that person might access urgent care. If poisoning related issues are there, if wound related issues are there, if emergency health issues are there, people will access urgent care, right? So many of these subgroups of people, because I've worked as a pharmacist in US, because I've worked also in hospitals as a administrative intern, and I understand some trends and patterns of what happens in certain areas. These type of wounds and these type of treatment protocols will need medications like either antipsychotic drugs or drugs that are used for pain, drugs that are given for anesthesia, for surgery related procedures. And all of these medications now have a potential also, because it is dispensed there frequently in that local area. Many patients might be taking these. Florida is also an area where retired people also exist. Florida is also an area where crime exists related to legal and illegal drug usages. Now all of these combination of factors of legal and illegal drug usages in the local area related to whatever drugs are being commonly used by people there, all of them have a now eventual impact of accumulating in that area's water supply and soil and even food eventually, if enough long term impact has been going on. And if you have like fruit trees or vegetable gardens in your homes or herbal gardens in your homes, in all of those gardens, if enough of chemical accumulation has happened of multiple drugs used in that area, or the other chemicals like pesticides used in that area, all of which can accumulate in your underground water supply. And from that underground water supply, when you are using that water in your homes for your gardening purposes, using it for cooking your food, using it directly, and because most of us don't realize that our water could be polluted, especially in western countries, those people don't even filter their water out. Sometimes they directly consume water from the tap. So if you're consuming tap water regularly, and even if you don't consume tap water regularly, you do have a filter jug via which you're consuming it, or some filtration system via which you're consuming it, the strength of the number of chemicals there determines how much of the chemicals will be filtered out from your water. So if local water contamination is going on, environmental pollution related factors are now impacting the local food and water, then what will happen is, let's say there are, at least if the forensic lab does a top 10 or top 20 analysis of what kind of drugs are sold in this area legally and illegally, and based on that, what prescriptions are sold legally, what prescriptions are sold illegally, what other illegal drugs are sold or black marketed there, all of these mean some water pollution is going on there. All of which means that water pollution content of the home of this grandmother, home of the mother, restaurant where they went to eat, other places where the baby might have visited during the 7 months, including the hospital, all of these places are places where, like, you know, if she went for her flu shots and other shots, vaccines at the hospital or local clinic, all of these places now, their water supply influences certain things related to the care and caretaking and normal lifestyle choices that are going on in that area, which needs to be addressed. Why? Because it is a local concern and a global concern, using this location specific factors that other people globally can start figuring out what are the main chemicals in your area that are impacting the local population's health. Because if multiple drugs are there, there are top 10 drugs of that area that are there prevalent in their water supply, and you are drinking that water when you are going, like even in the court hearings you will see when the witnesses are sitting and testifying, they are drinking glasses of water occasionally while they are speaking and when they are nervous or when they are crying. when they're drinking that water, even that water in their local judge's office filtration system or office water supply, even that water has potential to be now contaminated with something. And those things you need to know, because these things, if antipsychotics are there, they will impact your brain functions. They can cause drowsiness, dizziness. Painkillers are there, sedative hypnotics are there, again drowsiness, dizziness will be symptoms. If she's been an elderly, already has some health issues in her, ongoing chronic health issues, her and her husband, their chronic health issues means they are taking certain drugs. Those drugs also might be there in their local water supply. That can also be influencing their overall health paradigm. And that is inadvertent exposure. If no one is aware that your local water supply has these contaminations, and from that local water supply's regular usage of drinking, cooking, washing, bathing, fun activities like swimming in the swimming pool, or even injections that you are or let's say doctor gave you a baby supplement, nutritional supplement drink that the baby can have, infant formula. If your infant formula now needs to be mixed with the water to be given to the baby, that infant formula also, if manufactured near that area, can have contaminations. The water in which it's getting mixed can also have contaminations. The plastic straw or paper straw, if they are manufactured in facilities where some cross contamination is going on, because in India I have found that the paper straws, some paper straws I found, if they were likely possibly processed in an area where organochlorine pesticides are being used, they have a strong smell of organochlorines in them. Some of the paper straws I found to have strong, and not just paper straws, I found there's a problem with paper straws, paper napkins, sometimes paper bags and paper boxes in which food is delivered. So because if recycled materials are being used, or even if recycled materials are not being used, to manufacture paper, water is needed. And if that water is contaminated now with some chemicals, whatever chemicals were there in that water when the paper was being manufactured or recycled, that water's contamination now goes into that paper. So if I have a paper box for food delivery, or I have a paper box for paper napkin or a paper straw, that also has certain chemicals that can impact your health. And let's say the baby was that straw that was used for the baby, or the local areas, now that batch of straws that are used in that area are contaminated with soap. Understand that that soap can also cause increase in density in your blood, because this is what I have found in recent years. If I bathe too much in soapy water, or drink water which has soap content is high in it, because my filtration device is malfunctioning, or the bottled water I purchased, the manufacturer from where I have purchased it, they didn't do the right due diligence, so my bottled water has some soap content in it. Soap meaning soap, detergent, anything that is used as a cleansing agent, that cleansing agent's cross contamination has happened. And it's not like very turbid, like if you mix a drop of detergent in water, how turbid it will become. You are not getting that kind of water, but you are still getting a water with some contamination or cross contamination or micro amounts of contamination, which your visible eye is not able to see. But if you have good sense of smell and taste, you may be able to smell and taste it. And also, if you actually do an analysis of that water, you will be able to detect what was there chemically in that water that is causing it to taste differently. And if I don't have a good sense of smell or taste, and I'm continuously making food in water that has high detergent and soap content, or high content of other chemicals and drugs in it, what is going to happen to my body? My body is slowly accumulating multiple toxins, and there will be a day when enough toxins have accumulated in my blood such that my organ systems can start failing, such that my health can start failing, such that I can also end up dying after enough chemicals have accumulated. when I didn't know that they were accumulating in my body, when my body tried to release it out of my body via the normal body's excretory and elimination functions. But even after those elimination and excretory functions, if it didn't get completely released from my body, if it is still accumulated enough in my body at such a level that it is toxic to a particular patient's health condition, that patient can end up dying. And baby Uriel, understand, she's a 7-month infant. So if there's a lot of water pollution and food pollution related problems going on in their area, environment toxin related pollution causing her clothes also now to be polluted in that in her daily life, then because cross contamination of, if I continuously wash my clothes in a detergent laced water instead of complete clean water, because when you're washing clothes in a washing machine, for example, or even when you're washing your clothes by hands, know this, first you use soap for taking away the dirt from the clothes, the oil and other grime from the clothes, and then after the soap or detergent has taken away whatever needs to be cleaned, we dip it, we rinse it in clean water, right? You need clean water to rinse it. The machine drains away the soapy water and then cleans our clothes in the clean water. That is what it is supposed to do. A machine is supposed to do. And if our tap has clean water, when I'm washing my hands are supposed to do. But if my tap has now already accumulated some underground pollution, water pollution related problems, and my tap water supply has some soapy consistency now, so even though I've done a soap wash, while rinsing it, I don't have pure H2O to rinse it. So if I don't have pure H2O to rinse it, and there is soapiness in my water, every time I rinse it, my rinsing is going to keep on adding layers of soap on my clothes. And if I have been doing like this for many months or many years, any clothes that I'm wearing regularly for a while will eventually have a layer of those soapy material on those clothes. And which, if I'm wearing my clothes now regularly, what is going to happen from my clothes, whatever is stuck to my clothes, which is called adsorption, whatever is adsorbed on my clothes will eventually via my clothes get absorbed by me. Anytime I'm like sweating, and if it's a water soluble thing, it might get absorbed. If I have a oily skin, or I'm wearing lotion that has oil in it, or I had a oil bath, whatever I had where some oil was released, again oil soluble factors also from these clothes will start absorbing. And most of us have a kind of oily, kind of when humidity is high, we sweat, and watery body. So because of which, consistently from your clothes, things can get continuously absorbed by you. Toxins can get absorbed via your clothes also into your body. And if the baby is a small infant, the baby doesn't have a developed system, its complete immune system has not developed yet. Plus, if multiple water pollution related or other food and cloth pollution related parameters were influencing her life, that is a ancillary factor that led to heightened. And when your toxic levels are really high, which is what I have experienced, my patient history I've discussed here in these videos, because of this reason only, that when multiple chemicals were raising my inflammation, first they raised my allergies. So if I had allergies, what is happening? Rashes will form on my skin, or skin irritation is happening, and I'm doing like this on my skin. But when that same allergenic component is continuously absorbed via my clothes, or via whenever I'm showering, it is getting absorbed via my scalp and skin, because skin is a very absorptive organ. So anytime I take a shower and water supply is contaminated, that shower water can invariably get absorbed in my body and absorb the chemical contents in that water. So all those chemicals, where is it going in my body? It is going to be processed by my lymphatic system, circulatory system, excretory system. The liver and kidneys are going to try to detox it out, sweat it out from my body. But while it is doing that, if excess chemicals are there, excess toxins are there, not just chemicals, different kinds of toxins are there, all of which my body wants to now throw out or eliminate. But if my body gets overloaded, what will it do? It can't eliminate everything. So when it can't eliminate everything, that is when maybe inflammation from allergy level, it goes into inflammation level. From minor symptom level, it goes into moderate symptom level. And slowly, if no one is realizing that enough toxins have accumulated in my body, it can also go one fine day into heavy toxin level. And someday, all you need in order to actually have a heavy toxin related allergic response or heavy toxin overload related death is the day when the body just couldn't handle the extra bit of chemical that you got exposed to. So this baby infant, she could have been exposed to water supply of that area for a long time with lot of water pollution factors in it, which was already ruining her health internally. But because organ damage is not very easy to detect and not that quick to detect, and when it is a baby, if the baby is developing organ damage, developing allergy symptom, if the baby looks red with red cheeks, most people assume it is a healthy baby and cute baby. But what if that redness of her cheeks, or if she had other redness in her skin, what if that was also indicating that she has rashes developing in her body because of allergies? What if I don't know what medicines she was on, or if she had some minor symptoms indicating that because water pollution related factors or toxin exposure related factors can result in those kind of symptoms that are treatable initially by medication, but will be sometimes mistakenly considered as an allergy or some other health illness, when in fact something deeper than a simple allergy is going on with that person. So that's why this is important for not just Baby Uriel's case, but everyone else's case. And this is an ancillary factor for Baby Uriel, because if already her body was slowly shutting down, there was some organ damage, and that's why if her body is still available for postmortem should be done if her body is present for postmortem analysis of whether organ damage was going on, cancer was going on. Cancer can develop also in some industrial areas, whether cell death was going on for other toxic exposure related reasons, and if her blood sample is available, some tox screen needs to be done to understand what was there actually in her blood. And because there were other symptoms that she showed that day that indicates that some chemical poisoning was also going on with her, the chemical poisoning that can also raise her body temperature. So if she has multiple chemicals in her blood from water supply related pollution problems, that will also lead to a heightened body temperature. Along with that, if she was given some additional chemical by accident or deliberately, maliciously, that will also lead to heightened body temperature. And then if she was accidentally put in a vehicle for 2 hours in the daylight, summer time, or in the hot summer sun, then also that is culpable, right? But if the day was not that hot as people assumed, or if it wasn't, if her body was hot but the car was not hot, that is another way to determine it. If her body was hot and there was a windy day also, then also you have to understand that the grandmother leaving her in the car is only partially responsible. The other drugs and chemicals used deliberately on her or inadvertently on her could also be the factors related to her death. And the indicators of other chemicals causing this health issue on her and her grandmother also, because if local water pollution is going on, it can impact a baby as well as a elderly as well as other family in that area. Anyone in that area can be impacted by local pollution related issues. And the grandmother was consistently having drowsiness effect, right? It had already happened a few years back with the other grandchild. So that is a factor that shows that slowly if local pollution was causing her drowsiness, that could be a factor. It could also be like how my mother was getting drugged by someone maliciously. If that was happening, someone is maliciously drugging, putting something, like it is very easy, like if you trust your husband and your husband goes and makes you your soup or gives you your lunch, or just knows that this is a cup you have a favorite cup that you always use. I will forget about me, but if you know that this is your favorite cup that you will use for drinking tea or coffee, they can put something in your tea and coffee. Or if you're the only one drinking tea and coffee, very rarely other people drink the tea and coffee, they can be slowly poisoning you by adding something in your tea and coffee. So that's why the evidence of whether poisoning was going on to any one of these people, that evidence will be actually present even now, possibly in their homes, if someone does a good scrutiny. But because people didn't understand that poisoning could have also been happening, no one has searched for it. And if she didn't give the right witness data only, then how will people search if people didn't know whether she was sleeping again another time? Because if you are repeatedly sleeping, you could be sleeping because if local water supply is contaminated with drugs that cause sleeping, that is one reason. If local water supply doesn't have that, but someone is deliberately poisoning you, that is another reason. So that is necessary. And the reason why chemicals have definitely medications have definitely caused some medication, legal or illegal medications, have caused health issues and symptoms in both the grandmother and the granddaughter, was actually observed by the aunt of Uriel. So when Uriel was making her 911 call and she gave the evidence also in the court, in that video you will observe that she has said that she had seen her mother have very wide eyes. So of course shock of seeing something happen to Uriel would have made her mother also goggly eyed. But Uriel had, if she had already passed, right, the paramedics said that she was declared dead on arrival, meaning by the time the paramedics handled her, she was already dead. And she was likely dead for a while, they said, because they thought rigor mortis had set in. But what if rigor mortis hadn't set in? What if she had indeed just barely died a few hours? Because rigor mortis can set in within 2 hours, I saw somewhere, for infants. So it is possible if she was left in the car for 2 hours, rigor mortis set in 2 hours time. But it is also possible if chemicals were there in her blood, or found in her blood, or in her other food that she was drinking and eating. And here mother's milk is also important. If the mother was exposed to certain chemicals via some people poisoning her, if mother was getting poisoned accidentally or inadvertently, mother's milk was being given to the baby, then via the mother those same chemicals can be transmitted to the baby as well, accidentally. So do you understand why this is all important for any future children's health caretaking as well? To understand what were all the reasons why this child died, and examining all the deeper repercussions, and finding the merit and demerit to how the child died, right? All the steps involved in her death. So Uriel had the aunt had said Uriel's eyes were also looking dilated or big. So now this dilated eyes can happen with certain chemicals like antipsychotics like haloperidol. It can also happen with amphetamines. Amphetamines can be used legally and illegally for drug sales. Haloperidol can be used in anesthesia clinics, or can be used as an antipsychotic drug for so if those kind of drugs, and haloperidol is also a drug that can cause redness in cheeks. I don't know, I was guided to think about haloperidol, but I am not 100% sure if that was the drug involved. But that is one of the drugs that should be examined in some of these sampling possibly, or at least the local areas pharmaceutical data, police data should be used to understand what could be the top 10, 20 or 100 chemicals potentially that could have entered the child's system if local environment conditions were responsible for her health decline, and if they were found in her DNA or blood or post-mortem reports, that is necessary. And if not for this baby, any other baby who dies in similar conditions or suspicious conditions, for them these kind of tests need to be conducted. And then she had the paramedic said she had clenched jaw. So the clenched jaw, he assumed, was from rigor mortis, but clenched jaw can also happen with some antipsychotic drugs. So those drug exposures can be given, and those drugs can be used for causing drowsiness, deliberate drowsiness, dizziness, health harm to someone, as well as when you are using it for treatment. But if the mother is using it for treatment, or local areas people are using it for treatment, and enough is accumulated in the local waters, again that can be a ancillary factor towards determining what was leading to her death. And if let's say blood sample is available, from the blood sample and tox screening, if you find antipsychotics were there, haloperidol were there, if it is from the water supply, some different amount will be there. If it is from deliberate poisoning, some different amount will be there. If it is from water supply plus breastfeeding from the mother, because if the water supply was contaminated at the mother's home, or water plus other food of the mother was getting contaminated by someone, because remember in my previous video it was a speculation, but if the other child that she caretakes is a shared child of a girlfriend or past wife of the husband she has, that child's mother, if out of jealousy or other reasons is poisoning this Uriel's mother, like accidentally she has put something in Uriel's mother's food and drinks, or some house supply things that she uses regularly, then the mother would be poisoned. And that poison, again, certain drugs, sedative hypnotics and certain class of drugs can cause memory loss as well, loss of time related issues as well, loss of understanding of how much time has passed related issues. All of these can happen depending on what is going on with you. And also if someone is hypnotizing you, even with hypnosis you can lose track of time. And hypnosis is also a factor that needs to be examined, because what if hypnosis plus use of drugs was going on with the grandmother and the mother? Then both of them will lose track of time, and something bad could have been going on with the child with no one aware that something bad was going on with the child. And while something bad was going on with the child, those factors were also possibly responsible for causing her health harm. That could have been another thing. Or if it is something else, that is not that something bad was going on with the child, but something illegal was going on with both the mother and grandmother, or one of them, where the husband has some malicious intents in wanting to get out of the marriage. Those can also be the factors where they want the wife to look incompetent, like how my dad wanted my mother to look incompetent. It's just that he never gotten out, or divorce is not that common in our society, so he couldn't get that, or whatever it was, he couldn't get him out from the marriage, but he really wanted an out in his marriage. So he ensured that until the time he gets an out from taking care of her responsibilities, he will make her life miserable. That was what I presumed was the principle that he was operating on when he made her life miserable. But again, I don't know all his psychology, but this is all speculation. But in this Uriel baby's case, what I'm saying is not speculation. There were enough evidence to show chemical poisoning could have been done. If excess soap has accumulated in her body from soap related poisoning, or detergent and soap like material related poisoning from clothes, and because in recent times I've also found cloth material that we buy even from newly from the stores can also have high detergent type contaminations in them. So that if absorbed, detergents being thicker and having more surface tension, they can lead to I have found, like, whenever detergent exposure is high for me, and because my body is at a organ damage level, I find accumulated toxins happening in my lower extremities, and I get lower extremity pain anytime my water I drank, and I understood that the water I drank was slightly contaminated. Those days I get more leg pain, and on the days I have cleaner water I get less leg pain. And that pooling of blood that he was talking about, this pooling of blood like factor will happen when your blood is thickening. So blood is the sedimentation rate of her blood is high, so most of the blood is pooling in her lower limbs. So while they thought that she's dead, it is also possible that she may not have been dead, or they thought that she had been dead for a while, but it is possible she was not dead for a while. She had just recently died that a few minutes before the paramedics came. And if her blood supply is available, do the testing of soap and detergent like materials commonly used in that area. Do the testing of antipsychotics or any material that can cause dilation of pupil, those kind of drugs. Any drugs that can cause clenching of the jaws, those kind of drugs should be screened in her body. And with the grandmother also, all these things, if it was a local thing or a deliberate poisoning and some of it was been done by the same person, then or a group of people for some reason, whatever it was, grandmother also needs a talk screen to find out why she was drowsy, why she was groggy. Multiple factors could have been involved in the grandmother's case as well. So I hope this was informative. Anyone has questions, comments, please post them here. Thank you very much. Have a great day.